One honorable mention to those side characters, even though he has only been with us for a very short time. I think Captain Hornblower deserves his own special mention. He was just a character and a half. He was really funny, and I don't know which of the story writers wrote him into the story, but they really had a lot of fun. Like they just put a character in that I think is universally loved, and his death is like usually when the side characters die, I'm like, meh. But Captain Hornblower is really someone I cared about, despite him only being in the game for a very short time. And that really it changes Karen in a slight way as well. It's not that I can put my finger on a change, but it certainly has an effect on him and on the player. It sets him off on even more rage, but in the end, we still make peace with the Thule. After realizing that, of course, they have never been our enemy, we have always been fighting the Scar. Except for Thule pirates, and I still want to fight them. No, I don't want to fight them anymore. I just want them to be, gone, away. I don't want to see any more pirates in my life. Ugh. The others that were with us until the final fight were Ramirez, the honorable pirate, Nikolai, the sort of jumpy scientist, Josen, the actually good politician, the diplomat actor, and Chichu, I don't even recall any of his traits. He kinda is an unmemorable Arak. Nara, of course, the probably one friendly fool, and finally Jack, the framed Terran that we have been chasing after all this time. Yeah, these characters, they are not, I would say, super amazing. They are not fleshed out in every aspect, but they support the story and they do it in a good way. Which leads us to the world building, and I think the world building in this game once again was pretty good. We had the various clusters and the races in them. We had multiple side quests to support the main story and flesh out the world for us, give us a bit more insights about what's going on, that along with the various galactic news that we've been thrown all the time. I still think I missed some, but I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, I think it's good world building because it really immerses the player into the story and into this universe. And yeah, I'm a fan of that. Also, there is a lot of political shenanigans around, and those political shenanigans, they really hurt us. The various races going to war against each other and the Thule is probably also why the Geo itself hits like on a scale of 1 to 10 for complete and utter uselessness, the Geo hits 25. They have been nothing but a thorn in our side for the entire duration of the game. What good has the Geo done? I'm asking you, what good has the Geo done? They have done nothing. They have left entire systems to fight for themselves against the pirates. We've had multiple missions, I think, multiple side quests, where the people have hired us because the Geo is doing jack diddly nothing to stop the pirates. Pirate gangs are flourishing and popping up like mushrooms in the galaxy. Geo, what are you doing? This can't possibly be all Robert and the Scar's fault. It can't possibly. It takes two to tango. You, in the GU, are completely useless. You are the most horrifying institution ever since the World Health Organization. They are also doing very little good or very debatable good, and whatever actual good they're doing is probably not in the news. I'm giving it that benefit of the doubt. But it really feels in these days that all the World Health Organization is a vehicle for politicians and special interests to exert influence over nations and the people of those nations. I'm really not a big fan of these organizations. But that is only my opinion. You are very well entitled to have your own. Next up, I want to talk about balance, and I don't really think the balance has been good with this game, to be honest. The weapons are kind of a shadow of variety. Like, sure, we have some weapons with a higher and a lower rate of fire, with more damage against shields, but that's about the extent of it. Like, if the most varied weapon you can use for main guns, I'm talking right now, is you have to watch out for raptors because they do a lot of damage to your shield. That is not really good variety. They all also have the same projectile speed that is kind of, necessary because you're only ever shooting where you're aiming, where your prediction is aiming you at. But there are other games, like in the X series, where you just lock onto a target and you move your crosshair close to wherever it is you would need to aim, and then the weapons you have will automatically shoot in the angle that they need to. The weapons that are faster will lead the target slightly less than the weapons that are not as fast. That is also possible. That has been done in games before. I think that this is not really my preferred space simulation for actual combat. I played this game a lot more for the story than for the feel of the space fights. The missiles also were good. I think they all had their uses, although to be honest, it felt like the Hellfire missiles. It took more time for them to lock on than it was worth shooting the target, or rather than it was worth. It would have been easier to just shoot the target. It also didn't have the range to make up for that or anything. The big bangs, they were just doing amazing damage to the big targets. And of course, we still had the swarm missiles, which were a sort of missile shotgun. You could dump fire them and they would just delete a drone swarm. I didn't use them enough. I wish I had 50 of those for the final fight. Anyway, that is the weapons themselves. There's not really many more to talk about, although there is the ship abilities for both the player and for the AI. The plasma thrower or plasma booster that we had was a bit of a mess. Some of the abilities were balanced, I'd say, or somewhat balanced, like the shield and weapon energy recharge, especially with the shuffling of shield and weapon energy. That was just amazing to do because you could refill both at the same time, but that also kinda, erases the difference between these abilities. So I don't really think that is good. Then we had the abilities that I thought of as rather useless, the Overload and EMP, because they didn't really seem to do much. It's just easier to use the most overpowered abilities, which is Time Stopping and Plasma Shield. Time Stopping because everything is now a shooting gallery, and the Plasma Shield because sometimes the enemies just have missiles that literally go through your shields. You can have full shields and they will still take your hull down. So against overpowered enemy missiles, if you don't want to dodge them all the time, and sometimes it's really hard to dodge them because the enemy comes at you, it's a dogfight after all, and the enemy shoots a missile at close range, you just ate those missiles, and there's nothing to do against it. There's no flares or other countermeasures other than flying away really fast, hiding behind or even inside asteroids, or just, putting on the plasma shield and continuing to blast the enemies. On the other side of the guns, we have the various races and their abilities. The Terrans are just... they can be really deadly when they stop and just shoot at the player. It's not really a flashy ability, but it certainly can do a lot of damage if you don't get out of the way fast enough. Then we have the Mortok, which... what were they doing again? I'm not entirely sure. They were really tanky, but they basically introduced us to turrets, and they were dodging around and being really tanky. They were both a dodge tank and an actual tank, all the while shooting at you with little pea shooters that don't really do a lot of damage. And they also... I don't think the normal Mortok had it, but the boss Mortok had it. They had to stop, charge up a missile and fire at you. You could dodge it fairly easily, and it was telegraphed really, really for a long time. So that is actually a good and balanced ability, and that is something you can avoid as a player. If you don't avoid it, don't be surprised if you are just dead. Then we have the Octo and their ability to put out turrets, the Raptor, which shoot mines all the time, and not mines, which shoot missiles all the time, but also drop mines. We've also had the Eric, which just jump around, and that is super annoying, but it's also a cool ability to have. I kind of wish I had that ability. Then the last enemy type we had were the Thule and their ability to cloak, and for the bosses to cloak and duplicate. That is also a highly annoying ability. But it felt like that added a lot of variety to space fights. And I basically knew that if I approached a pirate hideout and I saw a lot of Raptor in the first wave, that this was going to be a fight where I had to use Time Shock or the Plasma Shield because, yeah, missiles. Overall, I think if you exchange the Plasma Thrower abilities for the abilities of the various races, and put a little more progression into that and a little more shipbuilding into that, because that's also another thing. There is basically no variety of shipbuilding. The best you can do is decide which weapons you have. And although I shouldn't be saying that, it is due to the mod that we can rank up our ship to all the way to level 30. But in the base game, I think the highest level was 20. So you could only get 2/3 of the upgrades, and that means you could only get 2/3 of your ship part upgrades and your plasma thrower upgrades. That is actual variety. So I think it's not fair to say that the game had no build variety. I think it is fair to say that the mod erased the build variety for getting all the power in the final fight. It's arguably better or arguably worse. I think that depends on the standpoint of each person. But as for myself, I think I want to have the 100% full experience and having all the upgrades unlocked by the end. It feels like you're at 100% power against the enemy. It's just unfortunate that the final fight is a bit of a wash, in my opinion. You are doing nothing but fighting drones for over 20 minutes. I'm sure it gives you a bit of a high score, but come on. Give us a Scar cruiser that jumps in and tries to kill us. Give us collaborator ships that come in and try to kill us. Give us Scar torpedo bombers that try to go after our cruiser. Make it interesting, please. 20 minutes of drone hunting with no way to speed it up as far as I have confirmed. Maybe there is a way, I don't know. But nah, this was not a good fight. This was underwhelming. And I know technically the final fight is going into the Scar Death Star and blowing it up, similar to Star Wars. I think it is inspired by that. But yeah, the 20-minute drones before, no. Bah. Anyway, let's get on to another thing that was not really a big subject, the bugs. There were a few crashes. It's possibly related to the mod. It's possibly related to Steam Play. Yeah, okay. That happens. It's an old game, let's be honest. Also, in the final fight, some of my allies did not seem to go back to repair, but fortunately that didn't have much of an effect. Then I think we also had a couple of pirate gangs that were inaccessible, and that I am very certain that it is based off the mod sometimes or somehow, I don't know, not putting the planets on the map, not putting the systems on the map. It's weird. And I can remember the pirates that were sometimes just flying under our radar with no target markers, seemingly no primary weapons. Not sure what that is. But in the end, none of these things were game-breaking. The game-breaking bug was the Flag 2 mission being effectively impossible if you gather too many artifacts, which in my opinion is the correct way to play the game, and you can only get by it with cheats. That is the biggest elephant in the room. I'm not sure if that is a bug or just an oversight or whatever, but it's horrible. Then we have the hidden clusters mod, and apart from adding more clusters, more systems, and letting us level up to rank 30, the most important memory from that mod is the Odyssey quest. That felt really good. Other than that, it really added some more content to the game, and it changed a bunch of things around, so I'm not even sure how much of my criticism is aimed at the base game and how much at the mod. But that's also because they just blend together. And all I can say about that is nice. Except for maybe if the 20-minute drone gauntlet is actually part of the mod. Then I'm not going to like that part of it. Finally, what kind of score would I give this game? I would say it's a 70% game for me. I liked it to 70%. Some of the balance and some of the design choices were pretty bad, and the game-breaking Flag 2 BS is just horrible. But overall, I think the story was really good, and it felt good playing it. The absolute excessive pirate hunting, that was mostly on me. That's not fault of the game. But I would say I recommend this game to you, even in this day and age. And if you have it, maybe give it a try with the mod and see what's different. So overall, thank you, all of you, for staying up to this point. Thank you for watching and listening, and I hope to see you next time as well. Have a fantastic day.